We're gonna go through an entire episode about how I structure a skill development workout. This is very important because I'm gonna allow everybody to dive into my mind and how I strategically think of each and every point in order for our players to get the maximum benefit on their time of investment. My name is Coach William Lowe, and I'm the founder of Strive Basketball and Performance, as well as the Strive Goal Team. Make sure that you leave us a like and subscribe to our channel for weekly updates. Let's get into it. All right, before we dive into any basketball related stuff, we want to make sure that our body is warm and ready to go. So the first component of our skill development session is our physical preparation, which encompasses 3 basic principles. Number 1 is going to be mobility. Number 2 is going to be neural activation. And number 3 is going to be competitiveness. So the first one, we want to make sure that our athletes are mobile and stable in their ankles, hips, and shoulders. These 3 rocks control the other smaller parts of the body. We want to make sure that their core temperature is raised, but it doesn't have to be done in a boring jogging fashion. It can also be competitive, whether you're doing a mirror drill with athlete, whether you're playing a game of tag. These are all great ways to warm up the body without making it very boring. Then number 2, we want them to neurally be awake. So this might be throwing medicine balls against the wall. It could be running sprints, jumps, all great ways to get the CNS or the central nervous system ready to go. Then last but not least, we want to fire off those competitive juices and make sure that they're ready to compete. Each and every skill development session should have some sort of pressure and accountability on all players in order for it to be super game-like and tax them not only physically, but also emotionally. All right, so once we're ready to go and we're physically warm, we're gonna be going to our general shooting. Now, one of the ways that we're different from a lot of other places, we try not to separate ball handling, shooting, and finishing. We try and blend it all together because that's how it really is done on the court and in the game. So integration is very important for us. Again, blending shooting, ball handling, and passing together. We're also making sure that we're using the principle of repetition without repetition. Not repetition is the mother of all skill. We're trying to vary every single rep just like it would be in the game. So whether we're varying location, angle, different defenders, we're making sure that each and every shot or finish is going to be different, and the player has to self-organize in order to find the best solution. And even if they can't find a solution, we give them another opportunity to take another stab at it. Finally, everything has to be competitive and there has to be pressure. There has to be an element of accountability for each player to have them feeling a sense of pressure and for them to compete at the highest level. So in this video, you can see the defender behind the offensive player throwing the ball to a certain location. The offensive player has to round the cone and the defensive player is chasing them. Immediately, the offensive player has to shoot the ball while undergoing heavy pressure from the defense. This is a perfect example of what you would see during the game and is allowing the offensive player to undergo that sort of pressure and become acquainted with it. Second one, another great way to get better at handling pressure is races. Races is another great way to have pressure and competition. As you can see, these 2 players start on each side of the cone. They then do an X and they try and do a floater to see who can finish the basket first. These are just 2 examples of what we would call general shooting. So then the last part of our workout would be specific shooting. This can be up to half the entire session because these are actually the shots that you're gonna see. So it encompasses 4 different points that we need to keep in mind. Number 1, the location. We talked about this last episode. Shot chart. Are you tracking your shots for the entire season? Are you making a stat sheet of how you're shooting from certain locations? Are you taking a chart of where you are shooting from specific locations? Then, after we know all that information, we then go into the phases of the game. Also, we talked about this last episode. Are you getting your shots in transition offense or half-court offense? Very, very different. The momentum is going to be different. The mindset is going to be extremely different. So this is stuff that you need to know. Then specific actions. Are you shooting catch and shoot? Are you shooting off a cut? When I say shoot, it could also be a finish. Are you shooting off a pick and roll? Or are you shooting off an off-ball screen? How is it coming to you? Do you need to catch the ball and there's someone closing out to you? Very, very important stuff because you want to be as specific as possible. Then finally, probably the most important, so what kind of defense are you facing? It's gonna be a zone? Is it gonna be a man? Is it gonna be against a closeout? Are you coming off a ball screen? Is it gonna be a hedge? Is it gonna be a drop? Is it gonna be an under? Is it gonna be a trail? Sorry to give you guys so much information, but that's how clear you need to be if you want to be the best. Kobe wanted all this information from his staff, and then they would go into a skill development session. This is what we call specific shooting, and this should encompass 50% of each and every session before you go into any sort of game. That's all we've got for today, guys, but I really want you to know that even though this may be in a lecture form and it may not be combo dribbles and flashy stuff or 360 dunks, this stuff is probably more important than anything. Kobe, Michael, they wanted to be super specific and dive very deep into what they were working on. They didn't want to waste any time, and neither should you. You need to remember where you're getting the shots from, how you're getting the shots, what phase of the game are you getting these shots in? Are you shooting off a cut, or are you coming off a pick and roll, or is it a transition three? Finally, how is the defense playing you? I really hope you enjoyed this. You take a minute, you think about how your skill development sessions can be better, and then challenge yourself to be the best player that you can be. Make sure you leave us a like and hit the subscribe button to get weekly videos so that you can become the best player that you can be. See you next week, guys.